video is going to be discussing how to feed my new puppy. At Lakeshore, we feed our puppies about 3 times a day during the last week that they're with us. This will typically be somewhere around 7 in the morning, again at 1 in the afternoon, and then again at 5 or 6 in the evening for their final feeding. We give them all they want to eat for a period of about 20 minutes. And the reason we do this is because puppies go through huge growth spurts, just like a teenage boy may. I know when my own sons were growing up, one day they'd have 1 sandwich for lunch and be perfectly fine. The next day they may need 3 because they're going through those humongous growth spurts. If instead you feed your puppy just by the feeding recommendations on the side of the bag that say your puppy at 5 pounds of body weight may get a cup of food a day, so you would split that into 1/3 of a cup in the morning, 1/3 of a cup in the afternoon, and 1/3 of a cup in the evening. If you feed like this, the problem with that is going to be when they go through their big growth spurts and where they would typically need more food, they won't have it accessible to them. A hungry puppy is going to be a destructive puppy. They can't tell you that they're growing and that they need more food, so they're going to be chewing on table legs and the shoes that are on the floor, and they're just going to be having a much more difficult time learning not to chew on household items if they're hungry like that. So what we do is we put down a bowl of food for about 15 or 20 minutes with a couple of cups of food in there that's going to have way more than what they actually need. So our goal is this. When they're really hungry, going through growth spurts, there's going to be enough food in that bowl for them to eat more. When they're not, they'll eat less. Being that you're only giving that amount of food to them 3 times during the day and it's not being left out all day long, they aren't going to overeat and you're not going to have weight issues, which is of course what the vets are concerned about, because too much weight or too fast of a growth is not good for their developing bones and joints, especially their hips, which would be a main concern. But by just feeding them what they can eat in 15 or 20 minutes, they're going to be able to get twice what they need when they're growing versus when they're not. Now, doing it by the feeding recommendations on the side of the bag and restricting their food to a specific amount, whether they're growing or not, is identical to me looking at my teenage sons and saying, when they're 16 and growing like a weed, me telling them, I'm sorry, you weigh 120 pounds. I don't care how fast you're growing, you can have 1 sandwich for lunch and no more. We know this is not a good thing to do to our children because during those growth spurts, of course, they require more nutrition to grow properly and to grow good, healthy, strong bones and muscles. So one more time to recap, what we recommend is 3 feedings a day until the puppies reach 4 months of age. Then you can cut it back to twice a day. But to just feed more than enough in a bowl for 15 or 20 minutes, leave it down. You can pick up the remaining food and save it for later. It's hard kibble. They don't require water or milk or anything on there to soften that. Just the hard kibble is best for their teeth and to clean their teeth. If you feed canned food or softened food, you're going to have more problems with tartar buildup on their teeth than if they're allowed to chew the dry, crunchy type of foods. Another benefit to feeding in this way is that your puppy, every time it leaves the bowl, he's going to know that there's still food left. So food is not a big deal. He knows there will always be enough food and food left over when he walks away, which is an ideal thing for developing a good disposition in your puppies. Meaning this, if you restrict your puppy, where the puppy is still very hungry because it's growing and he doesn't have enough food, that food time is going to be a huge ordeal. They are going to be passionate about their food because they're always longing for more. They're not going to have a content disposition, which means you're going to have an adult dog that has always been restricted through those teenage growing months, wanting and needing more food, and they're going to start getting into garbage cans and stealing food off countertops and begging at the table and these kinds of things. Looking if the dog food bag isn't enclosed and put in someplace safely, they're going to tear it open and be looking for more food. They also could get food aggressive, being that they know that there's not going to be enough food. There's this small amount in that bowl, and I've got to gobble it down before anybody else gets it. And the other hand, if they always, when they walk away from that bowl, there's still food left in that bowl, food isn't any big deal because it hasn't been restricted, and I know I'm always going to have what I need. Feeding this way definitely helps to develop and promote a more content puppy and adult dog over the issue of food. Another part of feeding puppies that we feel is important is training them not to be aggressive over their food. Your puppy needs to know that you are in charge and that you absolutely can remove the food, put your hands in the food, sit next to the puppy, pet it while it's eating. This is not a time to restrict the socializing periods and stuff while the puppy's eating, because you don't want to develop that type of a disposition where the puppy knows that everybody's supposed to leave him alone, nobody's supposed to be near my food. Instead, we sit our children down next to the puppies while they're eating. Let them put the hands in the bowl. Let them take the bowl, hold it in their lap. Remove some of the food, let the puppy eat it out of their hand. That puppy should know that any human can get near that food bowl without being challenged for any reason. And that is best done when your puppy is 8 weeks old the first day you bring them home. You're obviously not going to take that to the extent where you're teasing the puppy or causing him any stress. It should be fun, a welcome time like the dinner table where you've got company, where your child, yourself, is just there with the puppy while they're eating so that he doesn't learn that this is a quiet time for me where, I can be aggressive and protective over my food.